Hi Stuart, lovely to meet up with you the other day and begin doing some work on your game over at the studio. I hope you had a safe journey back. Hope you enjoyed your visit and found it productive. It was certainly an enjoyable session from my point. I thought we made some nice changes in relation to your swing within the stack and tilt pattern. Initially we talked a lot about your setup and things that we'd like to see changed in order to make it easier for you to make the type of swing and get the type of shot pattern that you're looking to create. First of all, in order to stabilise things through the hit and continue hitting out at the golf ball, etc., we talked about the positioning of the feet and how important that is, the positioning of the weight and the handle location. So the setup on the top left was your original setup, and the setup on the bottom left was a little bit later in your session, not too far down the line, only about 11 or 12 shots later. But what we've got here now is we've got the feet flared out a little bit more, particularly the right foot. We need to make sure that the feet are out sufficiently to position the knees out, which in turn frees up the hip sockets, which in turn makes it much easier for you to turn that left shoulder downwards in a circle on a tilted angle. The next thing we talked about was your handle location. And we wanted your handle location pushing forward so that the handle is pointing round about the centre of the lead leg. So you can see at the start of your session we've got right foot not quite flared out enough, we've got the weight back a little bit, and we've certainly got the handle back a little bit. Add to that the ball position, working the ball too far forward in the stance doesn't make it easy for you to, again, to get that left shoulder working down properly, and as a result what we were seeing was a situation where the weight wasn't really far enough forward, the handle was back, the feet weren't flared in the appropriate manner, and as a result what we were finding was that in the initial part of the swing there was quite a substantial move off the golf ball. But we did rescue it, like a lot of good players do, by moving back onto it just as we start to transition. But unfortunately, once you feel that little bump into your right side, you're almost sort of dead in the water. You've just felt yourself do something that you've tried to get rid of. Even though at the top of your swing you're nicely centered, there is a little bit of an adjustment to achieve that position. So what we're seeing here on the top right, I'll just skip across to this one, is this is much later in your session. We've got the feet flared out differently, we've got the weight forward, we've got the handle forward, we've got the ball a little bit further back, and as a result we're also trying to control the arm swings, a little bit less of a sway off it, controlling the arms at the top, much more on top of it throughout the swing. The next thing we talked about was controlling the arms. When we look at your sort of swing from down the line, what we were experiencing was, as we approach the top of the backswing, there's this lifting of the arms, the butt of the club lifting off the circle, if you will. And that's almost, once you get above plane like that, you tend to stay there. You get the left arm a little bit too much out in front of you, shaft coming too much above the right shoulder. The shaft at that point should be midway through the right bicep. So that act of coming over the top that you were feeling is actually occurring very late in your backswing, and then you just maintain that very high plane that you have on the way through. So when the swing is shifted to the left, if that blade closes down too fast, that's the pull hook that you've been experiencing. If you're now swinging a driver, that outward force is pulling the club out towards the ball, and you can start to present the heel of the club to the golf ball, resulting in gear effect, which will produce a right curving shot. So you've got the miss to the left and the miss to the right. It can be a very similar swing created by just the sort of the position on the club face that you hit excuse me that you hit the golf ball. So our next port of call was to tighten up the top of the backswing, and in order to do that we want to feel more pressure under the right arm as we complete the swing. As you can see there, less of a lift. I like it here, still gets a little bit long, but not as long as before. So at the completion of your backswing, the butt of the club is not lifting as much. As you start down, the club is a little bit shallower and approaching a little bit more from the inside. So controlling the arms, making sure that we maintain the pressure under that right arm, pressure point 5. Allowing the arms to stay on the torso. Remember the discussion we had towards the end of your session when you were hitting your driver. If your arms stay on the torso and you do very little with the club face, that the odds on you hitting a pull hook are severely diminished. So it's very, very important that the arms stay on the rib cage. It's very, very important that we don't release the club too much. If we start to try and square the club up too much, we're going to cause ourselves problems in regards to low point control, because we're going to widen the radius, and also directional control, because we're closing that club face down very fast, and before you know it, we're dragging the hell out of it over to the left hand side. The next thing we discussed was tightening up the radius of your swing, and the bulk of the sort of latter half of your lesson was about tightening up this position here that we see as the shaft gets parallel with the ground. So as the shaft gets parallel with the ground in the downswing, position 6, what we're looking to try and achieve is getting the butt of the golf club more advanced so that it's more in line with the right thigh, which means that the lead arm has accelerated more, moving away from the right shoulder much more in the early part of the swing. If we hang on to the right arm too long, the right shoulder starts to work down more than around. We start to translate back, and the club is catapulted past us through impact, resulting in an impact position where the club head is out in front of the hands, closing down very quickly through the hit. So we're trying to tighten up the radius of the golf swing to improve our handle location and control the closure on the club face. The first thing we did was put some cones behind the golf ball. Now we did say that you could use a golf towel, fold it in half, or keep folding it till it's about 2 inches high, place it behind the golf ball about a foot, maybe 15 inches behind, and with a mid iron just concentrate on missing the cones or missing the towel on the way back and on the way through. And what that's going to do is it's going to encourage the left arm to move away from the right shoulder a little bit more. It's going to encourage a slight tightening of the radius of the swing. So this was the beginning of the session. So the left arm started to accelerate a little bit more. We're starting to see that the right arm is expanding a little bit sooner. Still not the finished article, but starting to move. Meaning that coming into impact, the handle is a little bit more advanced, and we start to get a little bit more shaft lean coming through the ball. So slightly reduced overtaking rate on the golf club. To take that up a level, what we talked about doing was this as an exercise. Ideally what we want to try and create is this scenario where the butt of the club, the feeling here is that the butt of the club is in line with the belt buckle by the time the shaft gets parallel with the ground. So that's speeding up the left arm, expanding the right arm, maintaining the lag in the wrist. We've now got a handle location that's much further forward. And we're going to have a much better control of our low point. Just going to zoom these up a little bit. So we've done correctly. The left arm has moved further. the left arm is moved away from the right shoulder, much faster in the early part of the downswing. Expanding the right arm, but moving the butt of the club nearer to the golf ball, resulting in a much narrower radius. So the distance from the centre of your swing, your left shoulder, and the sweet spot of the golf club, is shorter. So tightening up the radius of the swing is very, very important for you in regards to direction and quality of strike. Once we get the setup right, where the feet are flared out, the weight is forward, the handle is forward, the ball position is in the appropriate position, depending on the curvature that we're getting, and we're controlling those arms in the backswing. The downswing for you is all about controlling where the shaft is, or where the butt of the club is when the shaft hits parallel. So we want to really get into that position that you see on the bottom right of your screen. Good luck with it. I hope you enjoyed the literature, etc. that we gave you at the end of your session. If you've got any questions relating to anything about stack and tilt or golf in general, feel free to drop me a line or give me a call. Well done.